Hey, I want to offer a little more input on the climatogram activity. I went through and confirmed. I know that I gave you the comment that said, like, first I looked at temperature and I was able to determine whether it was temperate or tropical or polar. But I just thought it would be a good thing if I kind of gave you some feedback on that particular process. And you can take it or leave it, but I think that it's really helpful. And then just to kind of give you a couple of resources on like where you can draw 3 Venn diagrams and how that will run. First of all, I want to point out, I'm going to kind of pop this up there, that I'm on Adobe Acrobat for Google Drive. This is kind of a really cool tool, okay? So this is going to allow me to edit a PDF right online, but it's not Cami, so it's like a little bit easier to manage. I'm pretty sure I can just draw directly on it. Yeah, oops, I should probably hit undo because I just wrote a 2, even though that's not actually what number we're dealing with. All right, so let's take a look. Pictures in color, a little bit easier to enjoy what's going on there in that screen. And then kind of, just give a little survey of what's there, and then take a look at the climatograms. So we could definitely highlight some of the components here, and it may help to kind of compare from one thing to the next, okay? So one of the things I told you I went through, I took a look at the climate, specifically looking at temperature first, and so that's the line, and then precipitation is the shaded area. Anything that just has a very steady climate here. Oh, okay, it won't highlight that for me. Oh well. Okay, I'm going to go with my drawing. Okay, very steady climate there. I'm looking just to understand what these temperatures are doing. So my low average temperature in Fahrenheit, because I'm more familiar with that, is like 10 degrees. And then the high average temperature is somewhere between 60 and 70. So we're looking more at a more, because it's like down here it's really cold and it doesn't get much above the 70s, so we're looking more at like a polar region, where this one is more of a tropical region. Just looking at temperature, remember that. So I would like, kind of go through and be like, all right, I think that this one is tropical, I think this one is temperate, and just like noting on my page. Temperature, the lowest it gets is 30 degrees here on number 3, and it gets up into the 70s. So I'm looking here again at more of a temperate zone. So not super duper cold, but there are some fluctuations, okay? Whereas when I want to compare, let's go down into this guy right here, okay? Number 7, look at those temperatures, super low and relatively high. So big extreme temperature changes. So the warm months and then super cold in the winter. There we're looking at a polar region. So I'm just looking at temperature first, okay, just to give you a couple of examples. Now I'm going to compare precipitation, just so that you can kind of, judge from just from precipitation. Okay, let's take a look at 1, 2, and 3, and we'll kind of stick with that comparison. All right. So something that I have noticed is that regions that have very, very low precipitation, those are characterized as desert regions, right? Seasonal rains, where we have these like really high levels of seasonal rain, typically you're going to see a forest. I'll put a little question mark by that. Okay, and the same with this one. Whoop. I guess I gotta grab my tool like every time, which is kind of weird, but it's a good option. Okay, so maybe a tropical forest, maybe temperate forest, and I want to compare that over here with the grasslands. So one of the things I want to point out is when it comes to the deserts, let me look at, can we get that one? Is that the deserts all have super low precipitation averages. Like most of them are under an inch of rain a year. And so then it was kind of difficult for me to determine whether or not this was a desert. And so I was like, well, let me find the other polar, another polar region and compare the, compare temperature. So just take a look. Look, we're getting down into like below 20 and up into the 80s. So those very large swings, very extreme temperature changes, that's more characteristic of polar region. And then because of very, very little rain, this one here is a polar desert. And this one here is the polar grassland. So kind of characteristically, the forests are going to have more water than grasslands. Grasslands are going to have more water than deserts. Polar regions are going to have the wildest temperature swings. And tropical regions are going to have the most steady temperature, and temperate is just in between that. So when you take a look at each of those climatograms, according to like looking at the extreme temperatures or the amount of rain, that's really what you're comparing. Since you only really have to decide on 9 of them, you can kind of fumble through, mark up your page, and get to that point. Then, when you are answering your analysis questions, and you're looking at where do you see overlap between biomes in temperature and in rainfall, what I want you to do, I do want you to draw, let's look at this, now I can actually highlight. It says on the back of this paper, right? Well, we're not going to be drawing on the back of this paper because it's a PDF. What we can do is we can grab a little something called a Jamboard, which is a Google Suite option for you. All right, so Jamboard. And let me hit the, whoopsie, hang on. Okay, open that up so you could just see the plus bar here. So Jamboard is like a super easy place to keep some notes. All right, so on your Jamboard, look, big circle, another circle overlapping that. Now you have a Venn diagram. Oh, well, almost. I guess I gotta go and okay, I want to make that one transparent. So now I can actually, fill in my Venn diagram. And give myself a little bit more space. I'm going to throw a text box in here. And here, let's say I want to talk about tropical. How about tropical? And another text box here. And I'm going to overlap and we'll talk about temperate. And maybe you want to talk about forests. So you want to hit the tropical forests over here and you can just add on. So Jamboard's a really easy tool for creating something that's pretty simple. It's, it doesn't do anything crazy fancy, but just for like graphic organizers and just like really, really quick and easy. And then that can be turned in on your Google Classroom assignment, just like that. All right, let me know if you have any further questions. So 2 tools that I was excited to show you are the Jamboard and the Adobe Acrobat for Google Drive. In order to get this right here, you've got to go to your portal and click on Creative Cloud and then connect with the Adobe Acrobat for Google Drive. So there's lots and lots of different options in there. Adobe Suite is available to you because the district pays for it, and you should definitely use it. Sayonara.